This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Winning the peace after the war. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast.
The big question now is what comes next, but the ceasefire is holding, and for now, the war is over.
Trey Yingst at Fox News as President Trump made a triumphant return to Washington overnight after traveling Monday to the Middle East to sign an historic peace deal. That signing ceremony in Egypt officially brings to a close 2 years of war between Israel and Hamas.
The momentous breakthrough that we're here to celebrate is more than the end of the war in Gaza. It's with God's help. It'll be the new beginning for an entire beautiful Middle East.
Phase one of the deal saw the release of all the living Israeli hostages. Hamas is yet to hand over the remaining deceased hostages. Still, correspondent Haley Ott says Monday was a joyous day across the state of Israel.
Reunited, mothers and sons, families that had been torn apart. Now, with all the remaining living hostages back in Israel, in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees, a devastating 2-year chapter is finally closed.
Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich says President Trump deserves a lot of credit for getting Israel and Hamas to the bargaining table.
Israel's been embattled for almost its entire nearly 80 years of existence. And now, suddenly, Donald Trump comes along, changes the whole game. No American president has done anything like this.
Reporter Tom Yamis has the latest from Tel Aviv.
But there are still many challenges and questions, from who will rebuild Gaza to the disarming of Hamas. Significant obstacles to a lasting peace.
NBC's Garrett Haake.
Hamas has to choose to lay down its weapons and renounce any effort to govern the Strip in the future, something they've been unwilling to do in the past.
Emergency aid is now pouring into the Palestinian territory as Israeli troops withdraw. The UN says it'll take 600 food trucks a day to ease the suffering in war-torn Gaza. The U.S. Senate will try again today to end the 2-week-old government shutdown. 7 times they've attempted to end the impasse, and 7 times they've failed. Reporter Ryan Nobles is on Capitol Hill.
Things are not good. House Speaker Mike Johnson is warning the shutdown could be one of the longest ever, insisting that Republicans have nothing to negotiate until Democrats relent on their demand to extend health care subsidies. All of it leaving the future of thousands of federal workers hanging in the balance.
The U.S. Senate reconvenes at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Get ready for a global economic growth spurt. That's according to new numbers from the International Monetary Fund. Here's correspondent Michael Wallace.
The IMF says the economy will grow by 2% this year, up from its 1.9% forecast in July, and the global economy will grow 3.2%. The IMF says Trump's tariffs have caused less disruption than expected, but the full impact of them is still emerging. IMF chief economist Pierre-Olivier Gorinchat also warned of another possible tech bubble, like the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s.
It was the internet then, it is AI now.
He says tighter monetary policy will be needed to contain price pressures in the tech sector.
Renewed concerns today about a nationwide measles outbreak. Over 1,500 cases have been reported. Reporter Emily Akeda says this is the worst year for measles since 1992.
It hasn't even been 2 months since the deadly measles outbreak in Texas ended, but the highly contagious disease continues to pop up across the country. And now with the new school year in full swing, new cases are forcing hundreds of students to be quarantined for weeks on end, and some doctors say the situation will likely get worse.
More than 150 unvaccinated children at 2 schools in South Carolina have been forced out of the classroom and into quarantine for the next 21 days. Infectious disease expert Dr. Paul Offit.
You have to then stay away from school for 3 weeks, which is going to hurt your ability to learn. And so hundreds of children now are suffering the fact that they aren't going to be able able to go to school. And that's just one of the many consequences, I think, of these kinds of outbreaks.
An outbreak has also been growing in the Minneapolis area, where 118 students are in quarantine. The uptick in measles cases coincides with a decrease in childhood vaccination rates. A startling new study today shows 40% of deadly car crashes are linked to marijuana.
The research was conducted by scientists at Ohio's Wayne State University. They looked at the blood levels of 246 drivers killed over a 6-year period and found elevated levels of THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, in 4 out of 10 drivers. The lead author says the study highlights the public health risk posed by driving under the influence of weed, despite recreational cannabis now legalized in 24 states. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
The White House hosting a celebration of life today for slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk. President Trump will posthumously award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That event happens at 4 p.m. in the White House East Room. Kirk was assassinated September 10th at a Turning Point USA event in Utah. His widow, Erica, will attend today's ceremony.
And my goodness, am I so humbled to witness, Charlie, you alongside Jesus right now, doing what you always want to do, baby. Making heaven crowded, right? That's what it's all about.
Charlie Kirk would have been 32 years old today. Still to come on the Noon Report, retention election in Pennsylvania. The Bills lose again, and car hacking is on the rise. We'll tell you what that is coming up.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, looking at a clearing trend today. Some chillier weather ahead for tomorrow. Forecast details are up in 10.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. Let's check the headlines from New York and Pennsylvania. The man accused of firebombing the home of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro back in April. That man appeared before a judge this morning for a plea hearing. 38-year-old Cody Bulmer facing attempted murder and aggravated arson charges. Police say this guy set the governor's mansion ablaze while he and his family slept inside, thankfully. No one was harmed. Authorities think Bulmer attacked the governor because of his support for Israel. That crime happened over the Passover holiday. The Buffalo Bills have dropped back-to-back games after suffering another upset loss, this time on the road to the Falcons in Atlanta. Quarterback Josh Allen threw 2 touchdowns, but also threw 2 interceptions in that 24-14 defeat. Bills head coach Sean McDermott, what's going on, sir?
Not the result we were looking for. I thought the guys played hard, in particular in the second half, fought through some injuries, guys stepping up. Injuries are not an excuse.
Buffalo's now in second place in the AFC East behind the New England Patriots. Their next game is October 26th against the Carolina Panthers. A retention race that usually goes unnoticed is getting a lot of notice this election season as Republicans and Democrats pour a lot of money into 3 Pennsylvania Supreme Court contests.
This is the most important retention race in Pennsylvania history.
Eugene DePasquale is chair of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party. This retention election has the power to change the makeup of the state Supreme Court, which currently is a 5-2 Democrat majority.
So the vote that people will see on their ballots is a yes or no question.
Sarah Niebler is a political scientist at Dickinson College. Voters on November 4th will say yes or no to whether they want to see 3 liberal justices on the Commonwealth's highest court serve for another 10 years. For many Republicans, including GOP Chair Greg Rothman, the answer is a resounding no.
They're activist judges that, and they're Democrats, and they created all kinds of chaos and have been legislating from the bench, which is not their jobs.
My late friend, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, defined an activist judge quite cogently as a judge with whom you disagree.
That's John Jones II. He's a former federal judge and the current president of Dickinson College. The justices in question have made controversial rulings on everything from COVID shutdowns to abortion rights to voter ID. Once again, Greg Rothman.
They wear black robes, but underneath those black robes, they're wearing blue jerseys. jerseys.
If one or more justices are voted out, Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro would have to nominate someone to replace them. Those replacement candidates would need approval from the Republican-controlled state Senate. Embattled New York Attorney General Tish James is making her first public appearance since being indicted last week on bank fraud charges.
And I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend. I will not capitulate. I will not give in. I will not give up.
The AG speaking at a rally in support of New York City Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Danielle Alvarez is senior advisor for the Republican National Committee.
The reality is that she is corrupt, she is a fraudster, and she is an embarrassment to New York City and the great state of New York. She spent her entire campaign talking about how she was going to go after Donald Trump.
Tish James will be arraigned on criminal charges October 24th. She faces prison time and loss of her law license if convicted. A Pennsylvania politician is proposing a bill that would ban Native American mascots in schools all across the Commonwealth. New York already has such a law. Democrat Christopher Rabb says Indian-themed mascots and logos are derogatory and have a negative impact on individuals with indigenous heritage. That legislation is yet to be formally submitted in Harrisburg. The Erie County, New York Water Authority responding to questions today about the smell and taste of the drinking water in Western New York.
According to a social media post by the Erie County Water Authority over the weekend, it's a common occurrence this time of year. They say that there are naturally occurring conditions that cause compounds to be produced that impact odor and taste. The Erie County Water Authority says these conditions are harmless and pose no threat to the health and safety of humans and pets. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Pennsylvania State Police are warning about a high-tech heist that's letting thieves steal cars in silence. Incidents of key fob cloning, also known as car hacking, are on the rise across the Commonwealth. Because many cars now have keyless ignitions, thieves are able to clone fobs and steal your vehicles. Fobs send a short-range signal to unlock a car's door and even start the engine. This readily available technology can copy that signal in a matter of seconds. Police say there are steps you can take to protect your vehicle. It starts by never leaving a key fob near the front door or the window of your vehicle. A major fire at a central New York manufacturing plant continues to have a ripple effect nationwide. Even though the Novelis factory near Oswego is up and running from a September blaze, its hot mill won't be back in business till early next year. Syracuse University supply chain expert Pat Penfield says that's a major issue for car makers.
40% of the sheet metal aluminum is used in the automotive industry as a whole. You can try and find other sources, but it's going to take time.
Penfield says the popular Ford F-150 pickup truck is dependent on the sheet metal aluminum that's manufactured at that plant.
That is their number one selling vehicle in the United States. So it uses almost all aluminum. Not having that aluminum supply is going to really impact their ability to sell those trucks, and they make about $17,000 per truck on average profit.
Penfield's hopeful that New York State will step in to help the workers at the plant who've been displaced because of that fire. Penn State University's radio and TV stations just got a new lease on life. Here's Family Life's Brian Query.
The Penn State Board of Trustees has unanimously approved new terms to transfer control of WPSU, the university's public radio and television station, to WHYY in Philadelphia. The move comes 1 month after trustees rejected an earlier deal and announced plans to shut down WPSU by 2026. That rejection prompted a public outcry and a petition with over 20,000 signatures. Under the revised plan, WHYY will operate WPSU for at least 3 years, and Penn State will transfer existing endowments without providing additional subsidies. WHYY must first secure over $8 million in outside funding. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bobbion Robinson stuck it to the Buffalo Bills last night, exploding for a career-high 238 yards from scrimmage. He had an 81-yard touchdown run and ended up with 170 yards on the ground, averaging almost 9 yards per carry. Kind of hard to overcome a performance like that. Josh Allen did throw 2 touchdown passes, but he was also picked off twice in the 24-14 loss to Atlanta. In Maryland, Jake Moody kicked a game-winning 38-yard field goal as time expired, and the Bears beat Washington 25-24. Moody converted 4 of 5 field goal attempts in his Chicago debut to help the Bears win their 3rd in a row. To baseball, Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Those were the names who were expected to be the noisemakers, the stars. But no, it's Jorge Polanco. He did it again last night, blasting a 3-run home run to break open a 3-3 tie. Seattle went on to beat the Blue Jays 10-3. They're up 2-0 in this best-of-7 series, and they get to go home for the next few games. To say Polanco has been the man, well, that would be an understatement this postseason. He hit 2 home runs off of Tarek Skubal, who's the best pitcher in baseball. In a winner-take-all Game 5, he had the game-winning hit in the 15th inning against Detroit. But then in Game 1 of this series, he hit the go-ahead single and then last night's blast. The ringtone on his phone is the theme from Top Gun. His teammates are thinking he is Iceman. The NL Championship Series got underway in Milwaukee, and Blake Snell was the story. 8 innings, 1 hit, 10 strikeouts, no runs. Then LA had to hold off the Brewers in the 9th, and they picked up the win 2-1. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, thank you. Still to come, a closer look at 2 wars. One is ending in Gaza, the other still raging in Ukraine. Congress will try again today to end the government shutdown, and we're honoring slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk. He would have been 32 today.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Well, according to a recent article in The Atlantic, there's a new hit band, but it doesn't really exist. Velvet Sundown got 1 million hits on Spotify before the wider public realized that they were completely generated by AI. Now, manufactured musical acts are, of course, nothing new, but at least the boy bands of the 90s, and you remember the Monkees, they were at least made up of dancing, singing, living human beings. Velvet Sundown's 2 albums have a kind of coffeehouse vibe. Band photos, history, and song lyrics can all be found online for this group that doesn't really exist. And apparently, they even have a social media strategy. When my colleague Tim Paget shared the Atlantic article online, the band liked his post. And one of their own social media posts reads this way, quote, "They said we're not real. Well, maybe you aren't either," end quote. Now, could there be a better encapsulation of our moment than this story? Disembodied art, music without a musician, and will anyone even care as long as they like it? Back in 1999, the film The Matrix told a dystopian tale of an ordinary man that discovered his entire world is an illusion, manufactured by artificially intelligent robots. And a big part of that story is that humans are easily captive because of their addiction to ease and escape. In 2021, the star of that film, as well as all the Matrix sequels, Keanu Reeves, had dinner with some friends whose teenage daughters had never seen the film. When he explained the plot to them, the girls were quite puzzled. Why would anyone want to leave the illusion? One of them even said, "Who cares if it's real?" Reeves' reply to them was, "That's awesome. No, it's actually terrifying, and it should be terrifying to the person who starred in the movie." For a generation or more now, art, music, and entertainment has been all about the individual's experience. There's no right or wrong way to listen, to view, or to understand. In fact, there's not really anything to understand, since meaning is a matter only of personal interpretation and construction. In what was a kind of culture-wide application of the reader response theory everyone was taught in reading class, it doesn't matter what the artist intends or how anyone else understands it. It doesn't even matter if what the artist creates is good. Now, in the case of Velvet Sundown, it doesn't even matter if there's an artist at all. Now, on one hand, innocuous AI-generated music playing in the background of our road trips and offices and kitchen might not mean all that much. At least it wouldn't mean all that much if we were a different kind of culture, but we aren't. We're a culture that long ago detached from truth and any moral vision for our imaginations. We've detached our identity and purpose from who we truly are, made in the image of God, to reflect our Creator and source of all truth. We've detached beauty from God. In fact, beauty has in large part fully succumbed to mindless sensation, and crassness has now become a substitute for excellence. Now, in contrast, it's certainly notable that music played such a prominent role throughout the history of the people of God. There are whole sections of the Bible in which God reveals himself to his people in the form of song, from the Psalms to large sections of the prophets. The songs of Moses, Deborah, Hannah, Mary, Elizabeth, these all punctuate the redemptive work of God. And throughout every expression of the church, Christian worship has been characterized by song as well. Because God created humans to worship him, music is inescapably a form of worship, for better or worse. Ultimately, real people should be creating music because it's real people who were created to worship with music. As the psalmist sang, "My lips will shout for joy when I sing praises to you, my soul also, which you have redeemed." For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you, John. Outside next, Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast for this afternoon. Where there are clouds, there'll be breaks of sunshine developing. That'll be across central New York and central and eastern Pennsylvania. Farther west, more in the way of sun. High temperature 60s. Tonight, partly cloudy, low temps 40s. Chance for a brief shower tomorrow morning. Otherwise, clouds and sun tomorrow, brisk and cooler. High in the 50s. Bright and sunny Thursday, crisp and cool, with high temperatures in the 50s.
Thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price, and a lot to get to Tuesday, October 14th. Will begin here. President Trump's just returned to the White House from his triumphant trip to the Middle East.
Together we've achieved what everybody said was impossible. At long last, we have peace in the Middle East.
The commander-in-chief able to secure an historic deal to end 2 years of fighting between Israel and Hamas. Trey Yingst is with Fox News.
It's a turning point for the Middle East, and President Trump sees this as laying the foundation for a broader peace plan for the region.
Reporter Bradley Blackburn.
President Trump has received a lot of praise for his role in this historic moment, including from former President Biden. But peace in the region is hardly secure, and while there's celebration for a ceasefire, there is also mourning over tremendous loss.
80% of Gaza was destroyed by the war. Reporter Nancy Cordes continues our coverage.
Trump's 20-point peace plan that was the basis for this deal calls for the creation of a temporary international stabilization force to help secure border areas in Gaza. But it is still unclear which countries will contribute troops, how large the force will be, and how long its deployment will last.
All the remaining hostages have been freed. Israel released hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. That was phase one of the deal. Phase two involves disarming Hamas. House Speaker Mike Johnson is warning the 2-week-old government shutdown might be one of the longest in U.S. history.
He spoke at a news conference on Monday.
We will not allow the American people to be taken hostage over partisan demands.
The Republicans said if Democrats keep up their obstruction, then that's where we're going to be headed. The shutdown began October 1st and looks like it's heading into its third week. The Senate's expected to vote again today on a measure to fund the government, but it's one that's already failed 7 times. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
The White House is hosting a celebration of life this afternoon for the late Charlie Kirk. President Trump will posthumously award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The event for the slain conservative activist starts at 4 p.m. in the White House East Room. Kirk was assassinated September 10th at a rally in Utah. He would have been 32 years old today. New tariffs take effect today on imported kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and upholstered furniture. The White House says the aim here is to boost domestic production and protect American companies.
The bad news is it's going to make those home improvement projects more expensive. The good news is the tariff rates are not as bad as originally thought. Given the unaffordability of many homes across the country, the desire to do a home improvement project still remains high despite those tariffs.
Business analyst Jill Schlesinger, if your computer is about a decade old, it may have the Windows 10 operating system. As of today, Microsoft will no longer fix bugs free of charge.
Microsoft is giving people options for how to keep using this decade-old version of Windows, in particular by paying Microsoft to continue continue squashing security bugs and protecting the system at least for another year.
Tech analyst Ian Shure. Instagram's cracking down on what millions of young people can see on that platform. It's aligning its teen accounts safety settings with the guidelines for PG-13 movies. The Meta-owned platform launched teen accounts last year. It's the most dramatic effort yet to protect youngsters from the harmful effects of social media. You're tuned in to the Noon Report for a Tuesday on Family Life.
Call it faith under fire on the front lines in Ukraine. Welcome back to another edition of Hometown Heroes on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster, and this week, part 2 of our interview with Pennsylvania's Todd Gallagher of A18 Missions, serving Ukraine and refugees in neighboring Romania throughout the invasion. We begin with the impact the Russian invasion has had on Ukrainians' faith. The old expression is there are no atheists in foxholes. And you can sort of draw a parallel here. There's nothing good about the Russian invasion, really. But I do recall we talked about how being in that environment, it did perhaps make people more receptive to faith than they might have otherwise been.
Oh, 100%. You hit the nail on the head. You are not thankful for it, but you're thankful in it. There's nothing special about myself and my family. We were there, and we didn't ask for that war, but we've chosen to stick around, and because we see God working, right? We see the things that are happening, but we didn't go there with our sleeves rolled up thinking, I want to be a hero. But being an American, still being there, still going in these areas, you gather people's attention. Gosh, you're American. What are you doing here? What are you coming into these areas amongst the din of the explosions in and around these villages on the frontline areas especially? And so ears are open to listening. And I say we come here with 2.5 weeks of food, and we're back and forth. We're there quite often in all these areas across there, especially the smaller villages that get nothing in there. But we bring something else here that is an eternity impacting message, and that's the gospel of Christ. We are here because God loves you.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, you've been through alongside the Ukrainians for this entire thing and continue to be. What's their current thinking? President Trump seems to have vacillated a bit, where he seems now to back the idea of Ukraine regaining all of its territory. Is that still the majority view, that we're willing to stick it out until we get all of our country back?
Yeah.
What's the feeling? What do you think ought to happen?
There's billboards all across Ukraine, and it says in Ukrainian, it will all be Ukraine, meaning that we're going to get it all back. That was the motto. That was their motivation, and they were gung-ho with it. We're now year 4 of it. They've seen the destruction. They've seen their brother, their uncle, their dad, their sister killed. And knowing that where Russia is especially occupying and taken is a demolition site. There's very little that has not been demolished in that whole Eastern Front. And they're willing to negotiate with that and say, you take that, and this is the general idea of the people. We would give that up if we can know that we would have some securities going forward, because they do not trust Russia. So they would be willing. That's the general message that I get, is that people are willing to compromise on these things. They don't want continued death going on there, and they want that security blanket. That needs to be part of the negotiation.
Finally, then, if somebody does want to drop something in your lap, help support the mission or A18, how do they go about it?
Yeah. When the war started, we were supported as missionaries, primarily out of a church in central Richmond area in Virginia, but we knew we wanted to accomplish a wider swath of work in Ukraine, especially with the war happened. So I started a 501c3 here in the United States, which we are also registered in Ukraine, that enables us to do a lot of things back and forth. And it's called A18 Missions. A18 stands for Acts 18. Looks like A18 Missions. I have no paid employees. All the money we get goes to Ukraine to help what we're doing there and to enable the work that we're doing. So we are grateful for every penny. The most important thing we need from everyone listening out there is your prayers. I know why these things drop in our lap. It is bringing heaven to earth by people's intercession for us that's enabling this work. And there's been no grief on my part on not being able to get things through or done or whatever. He saved all my energy for the actual work and let these things happen because of people's prayers. I'm convinced of that. and we really need the continued prayers for the church to continue to be the church there in Ukraine. I'm so proud of the evangelical church that has remained in these areas and all across there, that they have remained as the centers of the community. I'm not bashing any churches or anything like that, but the Church of Ukraine is the Orthodox Church, and you don't find them. You just don't find any Orthodox presence in the frontline areas. It has been the evangelical churches that have remained there. People are there to work and to be used by the Lord to help people to realize that our God is so worthy, so worth it. So we covet your prayers for these people, for the work that we're doing there in Ukraine, and that God in his timing would end this war.
That's Pennsylvania's Todd Gallagher of A18 Missions, serving Ukraine and refugees in neighboring Romania throughout the invasion. Please join us again next time as we search for your home, your town, your hero. It's Hometown Heroes on Family Life.
Excellent work. Thank you, Mark. Hometown Heroes comes your way every Tuesday during the Noon Report. You can catch it online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or our website, familylife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The nor'easter that lambasted the Atlantic coast from Virginia to New England and brought rain to parts of our region yesterday and last evening is moving away now. In its wake, higher pressure will build in with clearing skies this afternoon. A cold front will arrive tonight. Much chillier weather follows for the remainder of the week. For this afternoon, where there are clouds, there'll be breaks of sunshine developing. That'll be across central New York and central and eastern Pennsylvania. Farther west, more in the way of sun. High temperatures 60s. Tonight, partly cloudy, low temps 40s. Chance for a brief shower tomorrow morning. Otherwise, clouds and sun tomorrow, brisk and cooler. High in the 50s. Bright and sunny Thursday, crisp and cool, with high temperatures in the 50s.
Thank you kindly, Kevin. And finally today, if you've got a sweet tooth, today is just for you. Bree Tennis files this report.
Today you have permission, maybe an obligation, to indulge as we celebrate National Dessert Day. The endless variety can be overwhelming. Ice cream, pie, cake, candy, creme brulee, flan, cookies, cheesecake. Too many to name. And they're not just good, they're good for you. Sugar makes your brain release endorphins and serotonin, and those make you feel good. So after a meal, take a moment and have dessert. You know, for your health. I'm Bree Tennis.
Now, as long as it's for my health, Bree, I think I will. Thank you very much. And that's our world, the world we live in. Tuesday, October 14th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.